Yes, yes, that's right. Yes, that's me. Sorry, everyone. I'm just on the phone to the perfumer for Gravitas Pour On. I'll be right with you guys. Hi, yes, yes, right. Yeah, well, yeah, love it. Thank you so much. Oh, there's a problem? You got me mixed up with someone else? Well, who did they tell you I was? Yeah, the funny fragrance guy on YouTube, that's right. It's not me. So who did you think I was? Lex Ellis? Bloody hell. Hello everyone, welcome back to everybody in the Smelly Army. So today it's going to be a video showdown brought to you by my friends over at Fragrance Samples UK, where you can buy samples of every one of the fragrances in this video. Every month I do a sponsored video with them, and I'm really proud to do it because it's run by my great friend Greg from the channel GreggyBoy76, a fantastic fragrance reviewer. Fragrance Samples UK have over 600 designer and niche fragrances of all kinds available. They ship worldwide. They're in the UK if you're in that country, or one of 14 other EU countries, then you can just order for tracked shipping on their website. If you're elsewhere in the world, including the USA, simply email them at info@fragrancesamplesuk.com and they can get those orders out to you wherever you are in the world. So they do sizes, by the way, from 1ml to 10ml. I always recommend sampling fragrances if at all possible, because a lot of people get a bit impulsive when it comes to buying fragrances. Rush of blood to the head, blind buying, expensive niche stuff. Bad idea. Particularly this kind of thing that I'm going to be talking about today could be fun. Two fragrances in each case which are often compared to each other, or could be compared to each other. I'm going to say which I think is the best one, but it would be fun maybe to get samples and try them out. By the way, Fragrance Samples UK have a really great range actually. It's not just your obvious designer and niche stuff, but they also have some really up and coming exciting niche brands. For example, the Bortnikov range of fragrances. You can sample those there. I've been discovering those recently. This is Zemfira, a fantastic rose oud fragrance with real proper oud, two or three different types of it. Some of the Bortnikov stuff has got real deer musk in it. They've also recently got in the 3 new ones from Parfums Vintage, which I'm lucky enough to have been sent. Brutus Oud is the Parfums Vintage take on Amber Oud by Roger Dove. Amazing rose oud fragrance again, and a great way to sample it. Senses Obliteres, that one is Interlude Man, and Obsession Interdite is a rare Roberto Cavalli fragrance. So they're very good at getting in the latest stuff over there. Let's get into the video proper then anyway. So we're going to do a showdown. We've got 6 fragrances, so it's 3 pairings. It's 3 ties, if you want to think of it like a boxing match, on the card tonight. So let's check out what they're going to be. First up, I'm going to do Xerjoff Naxos versus Mugler's Pure Havane. Often compared, these two, aren't they? A lot of people talk about these two in the same breath. Some people I've seen say, well, you don't need to get the rather expensive niche fragrance Naxos by Xerjoff because you can just get Pure Havane by Thierry Mugler. After all, this one came first, and many people think that Xerjoff kind of copied it a few years later. So why not get the Pure Havane for a fraction of the price? I've tried all of them out quite a bit this week, and I've got them on paper cards to remind myself here. So I'm going to tell you what I think, and in which cases there's a clear preference. You're going to find out. So Pure Havane from Mugler, part of the Amen series, a flanker to the original Mugler Amen. Very nice combination of honeyed tobacco and the traditional Amen patchouli accord, which is also rather prevalent. It's a very pleasant fragrance. Of course, it's evocative of Havana, the capital city of Cuba, famous for its cigars. Very, very pleasant, quite sweet, and a very nice, kind of synthetic but good tobacco accord in there, combined with this kind of tarry thing that you get in Amen. Quite a bit of vanilla, sort of a gourmandish fragrance. A little bit rich and heavy and cloying and synthetic. For the prices that you can pick up a full bottle, it's probably well worth it. It's not a massive favourite of mine anymore though, because I have to tell you guys that I think that in this case, the description of them being very, very similar is just not correct. Naxos is far superior in my opinion. Naxos by Xerjoff. They do share the accords of honey and tobacco in both fragrances. Naxos has this much more airy and light kind of opening. There are citrus accords in the opening which you don't find in pure Havane. The longevity and performance on both is very comparable, both very good indeed, as you kind of expect with that kind of fragrance. The Naxos definitely feels much more like it smells more natural. That doesn't mean the ingredients are much more natural. There's probably plenty of synthetics in here too. No question that the bottle design, well, I would say, is rather more tasteful and classy looking on the Zerjoff fragrance. The performance, as I say, about equal, but you get this lovely kind of sweet tobacco feel with this one, a little bit more natural. I feel a little bit more like I'm picturing real tobacco leaves in my head. I'm not much of a snob. I'd almost want to tell you that pure Havane is better, but I cannot tell a lie. And I think this one is a clear-cut case of Naxos being far superior as a smell and as an overall composition, and I don't think it's in any way a copy of the other one. It may have been influenced by it, I really don't know, but it's taken the whole concept of honeyed tobacco to a new level, got a little bit more of Italian citrus chic in there, and this kind of subtle airy feel that you just don't get with the rather heavy but very pleasant pure Havane from Mugler. So if I had to rate them, Naxos for me a 10 out of 10, pure Havane maybe a 7.5. So that one, a clear-cut case for me. I declare the winner. Moving on to my second contest then, it's going to be a very familiar kind of theme. So these are two fragrances which many people compare to Aventus by Creed, but I'm not going to include the actual Creed fragrance in this comparison because perhaps many of us are a little bit bored of talking about that one. So we're going to do Mont Blanc's Explorer versus Pineapple Vintage Intense Gold. I think at the time of recording this, the most recent iteration of the famous Pineapple Vintage series from Parfums Vintage. So Mont Blanc Explorer, 2019 release, I think, and a designer fragrance, the first one really from a proper designer house that smells really similar, most people say, to Creed's Aventus. So famous for having kind of pineapple, bergamot, birchwood, rose maybe in there, vanilla, blackcurrant. Those are not exactly the listed notes of Mont Blanc Explorer, but it sure does smell very similar to Creed's Aventus. However, I think that this one has a little bit more of the Dior Sauvage and Broxton thing going on, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Very mass appealing, very fresh, very masculine, definitely recognisable as in the vein of Aventus. Pretty good quality, but just decent and okay. And there are quite a lot of clones of Aventus, maybe cheaper. I don't think this is massively standing out as a lot better than them. It's okay. It's a decent designer price, designer fragrance. The overall price for this one on the high street, still not massively cheap. So give it a try. Buy a sample from Fragrance Samples UK. See what you think about it. But for me, it doesn't thrill me massively, either as a fragrance in and of itself or as an Aventus themed scent. So Parfums Vintage Pineapple Vintage Intense Gold, superb performance on this one. This one just good, okay to good performance, fine but not amazing. The Intense Gold from Parfums Vintage takes their biggest seller Pineapple Vintage Intense and apparently adds a little bit more concentration of perfume oil and more musks, which should increase the performance, decreasing olfactory fatigue, so the company claim. I really think this is much more of a unique fragrance than the Mont Blanc one, because that sort of takes its cues from Dior Sauvage and Aventus. This one definitely has a pineapple vintage DNA. It's got that real strong pineapple accord, much more so than the actual Creed Aventus. So I think this one has its own thing going on, bit more interesting than just an out-and-out boring clone of Aventus. Very good performance. If you love the earlier versions, the original Pineapple Vintage Non-Intense and Pineapple Vintage Intense, this should take that to the next level. There are zillions of different iterations, most of which you can find on Fragrance Samples UK. I like this one a lot. I'm not quite sure why they need so many different versions, but this one definitely wins over Mont Blanc Explorer. Also, I do like Emperor and Emperor Extract from the Pineapple Vintage series. Last but not least then in the showdown, we're going to be comparing Histoire de Parfums 1725 Casanova with Invasion Barbare by MDCI Parfums. The samples from Fragrance Samples UK come in very nice and very safe plastic containers. In this case, I happen to have a full bottle of each one, except in this case, Invasion Barbare, when I have put mine in a snazzy posh atomizer. If you get your 10ml sample or 5ml from Fragrance Samples UK. That's something nice that you can do, so it really feels like a luxury thing. And I think, you know, 10ml can last you a long time if you're a bit of a collector like me. So kind of like doing that with samples from Fragrance Samples UK sometimes. Now, Invasion Barbare and 1725 by Histoire de Parfum, both very much barbershop scents. The MDCI Invasion Barbare, I think 2005. This one roughly not too different, in the similar kind of time that it came out. They're both kind of rather powdery, not very macho barbershop scents, but they have this this lavender thing going on in both of them, a certain sweetness about them, and a rather well-groomed powdery feel. Both of them, I think, have a little bit of influence, I'm going to say, from Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Mal, but they both have a bit more magic and quality than that. Invasion Barbare, really well thought of. A lot of people love this one. I think it's very good, but it's a little bit... Sometimes I'm not in the mood. There's something a little bit spicy and a little bit... Somebody once said it smells a bit like baby sick for the first few moments. I wouldn't go that far, but I'm not always sure that I love this one. It's got a certain milkiness coming from the cardamom, and that's nice, but it's quite dry and a quite spicy fragrance, and there's something about it, it does smell quite niche, and I'm not sure everyone's going to love that one. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't. Performance on that one for me, just okay, not amazing. In contrast, for me, and this in the first case where I like the cheaper one in terms of the retail price, I really love 1725 Casanova. I don't think they should be compared as very similar. Some people seem to think they are. There is a similarity in this kind of powdery nature and this addition of more sweetness perhaps than you get in your typical old school fougere. Both have a bit of sweetness in them. 1725 is more sweet for me. It's got a little bit of a licorice note in there, which the other one, Invasion Barbare, does not have. It performs roughly equally, good but not incredible, but I find this one rather more magical, and I just personally, to my taste, 1725 is my favourite. I like the sweetness, the powderiness is there, the licorice note I really enjoy, a little bit more of a long-lasting citrus feel for me in this one in the opening than the sort of spicy, not quite sure what it is that I get from Invasion Barbare. So for me, 1725 Casanova is my favourite of the two. So the winner in each category, I didn't give a mark for the other one, I would give the Pineapple Vintage Intense Gold an 8.5 out of 10, Mont Blanc Explorer 7. In this field, I would go 9.5, no, 10 out of 10 for Casanova, and 9 for Invasion Barbare. Let me know what you think about that. You can sample all of these fragrances over at Fragrance Samples UK. Check out the link in the description. Many others, 600 other fragrances. I hope that the Mr. Smelly fragrance, Gravitas Pour Homme, will be available to sample it on there once we get it produced. In order to do that, we want your support for our Kickstarter campaign. The link for that is down in the description as well. Thanks ever so much for joining me. Let me know what you thought about the video. I'll see you in the next one. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. Bye-bye. Mr. Smelly.